Very good. Thank you, Tom. I bet that there's a few carriers out here that have some great ideas on how you can better connect to your customers and consumers, especially in those tough-to-reach markets. So some food for thought. Thank you. I appreciate it. And now I am pleased to turn to our next speaker, Walt Megura, who serves as head of industry and society for Ericsson in North America. And you're going to have to tell industry and society, okay? Walt is focused on Ericsson's vertical business in the energy, utility, transportation, public safety, security sectors, and he's responsible for the go-to-market and operational strategy for the regional execution of Ericsson's overall vertical businesses in the U.S. and Canada. And so Walt comes to us with over 20 years of experience in the enterprise and telecom markets, and he's here with us today to take a look at how ICT-related services are changing the business landscape and how our players are competing against one another. So please, let's put it together for Walt.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Just want to say thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I welcome the opportunity to kind of talk a little bit about what we're doing. I think it's really interesting, and actually it's wonderful to have followed Tom and the work that Coke is doing. I think it's going to play very nicely into the things that I'll talk about. You know, so from my perspective, just to put a little context on it, you know, Ericsson has started to look at vertical industries as we try to help evolve our customers' business as they try to expand their business as well as our own business. And so, you know, last April we stood up an effort, which I lead, to go after three verticals: the utility energy sector, the transportation sector, as well as the public safety and security sector. And I can tell you, since we started here in North America, there's a lot going on. There's a tremendous amount of change, and that change is creating a lot of disruption. And so what I wanted to do is kind of put some points to that, and then hopefully by the end of the presentation, I'll cover a couple of topics that I think will be relevant to you folks that I might be able to identify areas for you to participate and take advantage of the change, which I always view as an opportunity. So let me go forward here. You know, when I think about the network society and, you know, the notion of the Internet of Things, just to kind of put a point on the network society from an Ericsson perspective, you know, our view of the network society is that every person in every industry will be empowered to reach their full potential. So, you know, to the previous speaker's points, we want to be able to help people realize their ambition, both at a personal level, whether you're a consumer, but at a professional and corporate level. And I like this chart because, you know, as a business guy, I find the numbers tell a story, and I'm not sure what you know, kind of what's going through all of your minds when you look at this. But, you know, for me, obviously, there's a lot going on every minute, which I think is interesting. But one of the things that I pick out with this is it tends to be a bit consumer focused. But in the end, it's the network that is enabling this, and I think that's a really important point, because most of you that are out here, you know, are involved in the network business, have a network, support a network, sell into a network. And so the network is a platform. And while this has got a consumer focus to it, I think what you'll see as we start to roll forward and we think about what 50 billion devices looks like. You know, back in 2010, Ericsson painted a vision of 50 billion connected devices, which is a pretty substantial number. But as you listen, you know, to what Coke's doing, and that's just one company, and you start to roll that out, you can really start to see that future. So while there's a lot of focus on consumers, there's a shift taking place in the market today. And that shift is more oriented around industry and opportunities with industry. And that's what I'd like to take a little bit of time to talk about. I don't know about, you know, all of you, but for me, it seems to me that the pace of change is accelerating. I mean, everything is going faster. You have to work faster. You have to do more. And when I look at this chart and you think about some of the things that have taken place over the last 100 years, really, from a network perspective, we spent the first 100 years just connecting places, right? You know, 1 billion places connected. quite an accomplishment, done reliably, consistently. And as that evolved with the advent of mobile technology, we shifted into connecting people. And again, to the point that Tom made relative to connecting people, that's interesting, and you really saw a big shift in terms of the amount of connections. But when I look at this chart and I think about the kick up to 50 billion devices, that represents a pretty significant change. When you see that kind of growth from a business perspective, that is a big deal. It's a disruptive force, and it means a lot of change. From my perspective and from Ericsson's perspective, that change is an opportunity, but it means you're going to have to think about how you do your business, both in terms of maybe your go-to-market model, maybe your business model itself, what you do, how you view your capabilities, and you'll look at how you evolve them in order to take advantage of that wave. And I will tell you, I'm out talking to large companies and all across the country, and they are on a mission to take advantage of this wave. They see real benefit and value creation. So I think there's an opportunity for you if you're able to look at your business and look at the values that you create and go after this opportunity as it goes forward. So ICT, we talk a lot about ICT, but as you think about that curve, one of the things that I think is important to understand is, as we're at this inflection point with this massive adoption and growth, there's this intersection between communications and IT technologies, and it's creating a lot of disruption, and it's been driven, quite frankly, by a few capabilities. One, which was mentioned before, which I think is obvious, is the notion of mobility. And here in North America, it's really almost ubiquitous, LTE broadband mobility. So whether it's mobility, whether it's broadband, or whether it's cloud, those technologies are reshaping industries, and they're creating opportunities for innovation. And innovation is being driven, into these industries where you see productivity revolution. So you see business processes being looked at. You see costs being squeezed out of the business, and new opportunities to go to market. All of you guys are dealing with competitors that are coming from new spaces, right? You've got over-the-top players that are able to provide different types of services and go after customers in a different way. And so I think what you have to be prepared to do is kind of rethink and look at your business and go, okay, how can I, with the combination of the technologies I have that I possess, and then working in an ecosystem model with other companies, how can I take advantage of this shift that's going on and grow my business and expand my business? So, taking the notion that the network is a platform, I will tell you, I'll give you an example. I was with a utility company yesterday. I spent half a day with a utility company, and they laid out their 8-year plan for us, where they were looking at the different dimensions of their business from a power perspective, from generation through transmission through distribution, and that the role of the communications plays across that. And today, they have disparate proprietary networks that support different applications. And what that means is it's not efficient, it's not cost effective, and their business is going through a transformation, and there's a tremendous amount of pressure on them. And so, the way Ericsson thinks about this problem is we look at the network and we say, look, if you can start to slice, your network to be able to provide the services that are needed by this particular utility, and they break their applications into different dimensions. In other words, high impact, medium impact, and low impact. And there's a correlation in terms of impact, in terms of volume of transactions. So, they're willing to sit down with companies and talk about models that will allow them to ensure the highest capability for the highest business impact for their key applications, and have less for lower impact. I think the challenge for us collectively in this room, and Ericsson is actively looking at and engaged in developing technology to support this, is the ability to be able to help you and the industries make these changes, and we're doing that. I found the work that Coke is doing, how they've got 30,000, they want to have 100,000 Coke dispensing machines on the Apple Pay network is very interesting, because it's another proof point in my mind for how every industry, every business, whether it's public or private, is going to be changed and reshaped, in the coming years by this notion of connected devices and everything being connected. And I think the opportunity that exists for those in this room is, you start locally, but you can think globally. I think, when I look at the businesses here, you guys have very strong customer relationships, very strong intimacy, customer intimacy. And I think that's a really important competitive advantage. I think the challenge is, as you engage the customers, you'll need to begin to shift the thinking away from what I would say is the more traditional ways that you monetize your network from a voice and data perspective, more into an application or a use case model. If I go back to the conversation with the utility company, I know there are municipal utility companies out there that are going through the same challenges that this big company was going through. So I think, for you, it's to look at your customer base and articulate to the key customers and understanding their problem, how you can solve it, building reference cases, and then being able to replicate those reference cases outside of your footprint. And through a ubiquitous kind of coverage with a network, through roaming agreements and other mechanisms, you're able to expand your business. But it's a shift. It's not a simple shift, but whether it's education, whether it's healthcare, connecting doctors that are not near their patients, whether it's in the towns that you live, putting systems in place for security measures or traffic management systems. There's all kinds of applications that are out there that you could start to take advantage of if you start to think a little differently. And from an Ericsson perspective, we see the opportunity, and we're here to help as we're actively engaging, in the marketplace with the customers in the targeted verticals that we're operating in. So, if I can get you to sort of make this shift in terms of where you are, and maybe many of you are already there and you're actively engaged, I don't know. But my point is, as you think about your business and as we look out and we go, all right, we really do want to participate in this wave of change that is taking place in terms of connecting devices and take advantage of these new models that are going out there and new ways to create value for ourselves and for our customers. There's a couple of characteristics that I think you're going to have to embrace as you make this change. Obviously, you need to be flexible, and from a flexible standpoint, there's kind of business models in terms of working in an ecosystem, working with different people, leveraging mobility, as well as this notion of programmability. I was, kind of making the point before about utilities and the difference in terms of applications, in terms of the level of importance and the level of transaction volume. So you'll need programmability to be able to adapt to those use cases and be able to serve those use cases in a seamless and a very effective way. And those technologies are there, and there's opportunity for you to embrace them when you think about things like cloud. You also need to be agile, and by agile, I'm thinking about service development and then really deployment and lifecycle management and billing and settlement. Those types of capabilities you'll need to be able to embrace and then leverage so that you can go and execute on the opportunity of connecting all of these devices based on all the variety of use cases, based on the different verticals that you want to go serve. The other point from a robustness standpoint is really around scale. And so as you start to really grow your business, these are topics that I think are consistent, have always been consistent. But when you really think about the number of devices and the diversity of devices, they become even more important. And in today's world, you've got to be able to scale. You've got to be able to, from a device standpoint, if you think outside of just tablets and phones and maybe PCs, but other devices, you'll need partnerships, with companies like Ericsson that can help you test these devices and ensure these devices actually will work on your network and will not affect your network in a negative way. They'll allow you to be able to support the customer in the way that the customer is looking for. So, that's an important dimension. And then obviously, if you could leverage the notion of standardization, that helps drive efficiencies. But these are themes that have got to be built into the process as you look at where you might want to go down the road. So, I go back to the first chart, you look at this chart, and you look at the challenges. As companies of various size, from small to medium to maybe somewhat large, you've got to cope with these. These are not insignificant challenges. Volume, diversity of devices, and then the impact to the network is something that can't be underestimated. From an Ericsson perspective, we think about network programmability, and you need to align to the customer's needs. And so having an agile service development area with the right kind of billing and settlements capabilities, as I talked about before, is important, as is the notion of being able to test devices in advance, as well as confirm that they will operate in the way that you want, and then be able to support a very wide range from a diversity standpoint. And all this has to be done in an affordable way. I think models like as a service become really important. I think there's ways that allows you to engage in these capabilities, but on a pay-as-you-go kind of a model, so that it allows you to have a variable cost model, which is always a good thing, so you don't have to build in advance and take on that cost, which is something that I think people try to avoid. But these challenges are not insurmountable. These challenges are challenges that, working with companies like Ericsson and putting together the right ecosystem are very much achievable in terms of overcoming. And really, it's just a matter of making the decision to go there. So, what's needed to realize this? I guess, for me, I've kind of talked a little bit about this notion of the intersection of IT and communications, and the fact that it's driving a tremendous amount of innovation, and the pace of change is very, very fast, and the markets that you're in may or may not be experiencing that speed, but it is happening. It is happening. It's happening all over. I'm dealing with it. I'm sure all of you feel it. And so I would encourage you to think about a couple of technologies where I believe Ericsson has the capability to help you as you look at evolving your model. One would be the notion of cloud. I think cloud is something that gives you very rapid capabilities in terms of deployment of services, gives you scale, gives you cost effectiveness. There's things around service enablement that I think are very important, as well as data analytics, which I haven't really talked about, but it was interesting to hear Tom's points on how they were looking at, laying bottles down. Is it vertical? Is it horizontal? I mean, there are insights that you can glean from supporting your customers' applications that are really, really valuable, that they don't see today. So you could leverage that capability, and it's another way to create value and monetize outside of what I would consider sort of the traditional ways of sort of voice and data kind of services. So those are capabilities that are there today that we are certainly capable of helping you with. But I think as you think about the notion of the network society, and you think about all this change, and you think about this rapid growth, and you got an existing business with an existing model, existing ways of monetizing, I think what you really have to kind of get your mind wrapped around, and Ericsson is there to support you. We have a very long history of working with this group, of understanding you, your customers, and your challenges, is the speed at which you have to innovate, because you have to innovate. There's no way around kind of meeting the challenge without some type of innovation. And so we stand, ready to sort of help you do that and work through the change process and help you in terms of looking at the network and the business models as well as the customers. Our work with the enterprises that we're doing today is done, equally to gain insights to be able to share to you so they can help you look at use cases where you might be able to find opportunity to go and monetize. So, we're here. We'd love to be that kind of partner for you. And I guess what I would say is, we're trying to build the network society, right? And we'd like to work with you. We'd like you to come join us and help us, make a difference as we go out and realize that vision. So thank you. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Walt. I mean, it's obviously technology never stops moving. It's good to hear that Ericsson has never stopped thinking about how better to serve and answer the needs of the challenge ahead. So thank you very much. Okay, now we'd like to invite you to join me at the exhibit hall. We're going to be opening that up in just a minute, and at the Galleria exhibit hall downstairs. And we will have refreshments, light snacks. It'll be sponsored by Alcatel-Lucent. And don't forget to participate in the Passport for Prizes program. And that's a great program where you can go around and say hello to the vendors and learn about them, and you get an opportunity to win great prizes. And there are plenty of great vendors that you should meet, obviously, and hopefully good opportunity for connections at the reception. And when the hall closes tonight, everyone is invited to attend the after-hours party at the Hard Rock Cafe, and it's sponsored by TNS, and it's just a few short blocks up the street, and hopefully you'll have an opportunity to stop by there and say hello and join with some of your friends. So thank you for your attendance, and we're going to open the hall up in just a second. So thank you, and I'll see you down there. Bye-bye.